Jesus, the good Scarab? Yeah, what's going on, party people in the place to be? I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? Hope everybody's having a good Saturday. Of course, we got to say what's up to the party people in the chat. We got the indelible, the incredible Nate2D2 in the building. We got Bodega Lady D New. We got Lamar in the check-in. What's going on? Of course, we have the real American Mr. Phil Fox. We got Tyler Lotz. We got Scarab Chronicles. That's very apropos for
right.
this video.
Right.
You know, and yeah, so I hope everybody's doing well. Of course, I got my man with me. You know, we are, you know, the Ray and Ghost of urban apologetics. Talking to my man, none other than CMB the ambassador. What's going on, sir?
What's good, man? We all up in the places, the incarcerated Scarfaces, all that kind of stuff here. You know how we do. What's happening, man? Everything good?
Man, yeah, man. Everything's good. Everything good. We're just politicking, you know what I mean?
Yeah, straight up. Ditto.
Oh man. Yeah, it's been interesting. Actually, you know, before I get into all that, if you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend that's him again. And if you like how it goes down, you can show your appreciation via PayPal, or if you like to be a monthly supporter of BK, you could become a patron. You get an assortment of goodies to enhance your personal Bible study. So, before we get into the main topic, we have to address some things. So, when was this? It was earlier this week. I was preparing to do this show, and you know, I'm looking through YouTube, and I see a familiar thumbnail of mine, but it has the Sonetta logo on it. I'm like, that's interesting.
Indeed.
And just for the record, you know, Sa has used my thumbnail before. Totally cool with it, because you know, I'll use his image or other people's image from his channel. So for me to be upset about that would be hypocritical. So Sa, if you're watching this, feel free. If you ever want to show my videos, either to big me up or to critique me, I'm cool with that. I don't, because in the video they talked about he might strike the channel. I'm like, I'm not gonna strike your channel. I don't get down like that. So Sa, you never have to worry about that with me over here, right? So I see a very familiar thumbnail, and so I click on, and it's Jabari and Sonetta, and they are responding to the video I did with Dr. David Falk, which is you know, it was a critique on some of Jabari's claims about the Exodus. And so, you know, he goes in, he calls me out, says my name, my government name, a whole lot, which is weird because I've never hidden my government name. Like, my name is Fredo Valentine on Facebook. People call me Fredo on my live. It's like it's never been a secret identity of mine. So I thought that was a little odd, but that's fine. And so you know, he wants to debate Dr. Falk. So funny enough, prior to that, and in fact, prior to our video that I did of Dr. Falk, he already mentioned to me that he would love to debate Jabari. Right? So, you know, there were some things being done behind the scenes. And eventually, Sonetta said that he will not be hosting the debate. Okay? I don't know why this is the case. I'm not going to speculate. Right? Because Sonetta is a grown man. He does whatever he wants to do. He doesn't have to do anything he does not want to do. And he doesn't have to explain. If he don't want to be involved, he doesn't have to be involved. Now, I want you to notice what I just did, right? No speculation. I didn't say he was running. He's scared, right? Because a lot of people on that side of the fence would have done that. But it's not true. I don't know why. Okay. And as far with Jabari is preparing for a debate already with Nepal. And he's preparing for a trip, a class trip, if you will, to Egypt. You know, so it's not a vacation that he's going on. He's working, right? He's getting a class to Egypt, which he does all the time. So it wasn't like it just came out of the blue. He does this on a regular basis, right? So I'm not saying he's running either, right? It's just too, you know, when you prepare for debate, that's a lot of energy. Plus preparing for a trip of this magnitude, that's a lot on someone's plate. Then you add the fact that, you know, he's married, he has a job, a lot of stuff, of stuff, right? So hopefully we can revisit this at the end of summer, early fall. So Jabari would like to engage, and so would Dr. Falk. All right? Nobody's running. No one's running.
If I may, it sounds like a lot of space and opportunity for me, but you know.
I mean, you know, I like to be fair and balanced, right?
Facts, right.
So, you know, now as for me and Jabari, right? A lot of people, some reason, think I'm scared of Jabari, right? So, I find that odd. And I mean, he mentioned, you know, we have a history. And I just want to share a couple of things here before we really get into the heart of the matter. So, let me share. Yeah, so he mentioned, you know, that I was present at the debate that he had with Divine Prospect. Shout out to Divine Prospect, you know. So here's a screenshot of that video. And as you see, I'm there at the shrine of Ma'at with Tazariak and many other individuals that you would be familiar with if you watch Sonetta, right? So I came from Brooklyn by myself to Harlem, to the shrine, never been here before. First time I met Jabari was here. How am I scared? I don't understand. Here's another picture here. And if you see on the lower right hand, that's, you know, our good friend Shaka Outmost. So it's like the best and brightest, the people that you are accustomed to seeing on that channel were there at this debate. And who's in the middle of all these people? Me. Oh, also, this is prior to me to even having a YouTube channel. I wasn't even BK Apologist at this time. So it wasn't like I was going for clout. I didn't have a channel. I'm here on some Christian witness. I'm here repping the gospel. That's what I'm doing. Okay. So also, you know, I had a chance to be part of the research team for this amazing debate that we had, you know, about 4 years ago. Is Christianity the white man's religion? You know, Jabari versus Dr. Vince Bantu.
Oh man.
Right? Good times, right? Good times.
Well, for one of y'all, but anyway.
You know, he came through very cordial, Jabari, friendly. He came with some of his shrine members. He came with his elder. You know what I mean? They had a vigorous debate. I believe he lost. You know, of course, he would beg to differ, and that's fine. You know, and, you know, I was part of the research team for Dr. Bantu, and I was there at the actual debate. And here's a picture with me and Jabari. Right? You
look frightened out of your wits.
Yeah, right. I'm shaking in my Timbs, right?
That's facts. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm I didn't know how I kept it together when I was, you know, face to face with the mighty Kemetic priest that is Jabari Osase. So here's a quick little bonus picture. It was me, Vocab, and Adam Coleman. They were also there as well. So yeah, so this idea that I'm scared, it's very weird. You know, and also, so he finally admits, which I think was very interesting. So he says my name, And he comments about the fact that I've been doing these critiques of him for years. So now he's on record saying that he's aware of my critiques. Now, I don't know why he hasn't responded. I have some ideas, but that would also be speculation. But he is on record now. He is aware of my critique of his claims against Christianity. Mm-hmm. And I do find it interesting that the first time he does mention my name is only so that he can go at Dr. Falk. Right? The Tom Who, as he would say. Right. And another thing, see, right? So that I'm lurking in the shadows doing this.
Right.
I'm
with
like
YouTube.
Right, like I'm doing these videos in the deepest recesses of the dark web.
Right, you're in the shadows with your 4.39K subscribers.
right. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh well, why haven't we heard of you before? Because I got a really small channel. That's why. I'm not a big deal. I'm just not. I have no problem saying that. And I don't do the things that would garner a lot of subscribers. I don't do the Christian version of the Shade Room.
Right.
Because if I wanted views, I could talk about all the scandalous behavior in the content community. There's a lot of salacious activity that's happened in the past over there. And if you notice, none of that is ever mentioned on my channel.
That's right.
Now, there's channels that definitely do that, and if you want to watch that, feel free. But over here, it's about defending the gospel. It's a very, very boring channel. Okay? There's not a lot of spicy. I get a little cutesy with thumbnails, but that's about as far as it goes with me. You know what I mean? So I'm not running or hiding. And Dr. Falk, definitely not running. He is for the smoke all the time.
With the popcorn.
With the popcorn in hand. And again, there's no, outside of him critiquing my worldview, there's no beef with me and Jabari at all. I don't dislike Jabari. And I like to think that he don't dislike me. I'm sure he doesn't like my critiques of him, but I don't like his critiques of my worldview either. So he's a big boy. He knows that if you're going to go after somebody's worldview, there's going to be some pushback. And I'm the one that pushes back a lot.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but he seems like a very likable guy. He's one of the few scandal-free people over there in the conscious community. Very much an adult, very mature individual. I just defend the faith against his critiques. That's all this is. And if people think, oh, you're just doing that for clout, well, how's that been working out for me? Nobody knows me. What clout do you speak of? There is no clout here.
Right.
If that was my intent, I failed. Right? It's not about that. It's about defending the faith. So, CMB, you've been with me from the very beginning. You've seen all this. So, what are some of your feelings on this?
Well, again, thanks for hanging out with me on the journey here and hanging out together. So whenever there's smoke, usually there's BK involved in some way, shape, or form. It's shenanigans.
Yeah,
that you just can't stay away from, and I don't even know why we're friends anymore. No, all jokes aside, man. It's been an interesting ride. Kind of seeing this from that, because I'll be perfectly honest with you, man. My exposure to the conscious community was limited, super limited, before getting to know you and some others in the urban apologetics community and stuff like that. And kind of seeing some of this stuff, it's almost, we can go back, to the ex-pastor shenanigans from back in the day, you know what I'm saying? And some of those folks,
Kevin Wesley,
right. Getting kicked off the channel at the same time and bonding over that. You know what I mean? and Michelle too. So shout out to Michelle, at that point in time. So it's been an interesting thing, and to kind of see how this is turning out, it's again very very interesting, kind of fun to watch from the sidelines, But yeah, I would say it's an I keep using the word interesting, but it is, like from an outsider's perspective, who had limited exposure to the conscious community beforehand, and to see how it's playing out. It's been fun to watch. It's been a good thing. What I can say without getting personal, with Jabari, because I don't know him anyway either, you know what I'm saying? It's just like some of the things that he says sound okay until they're put under the microscope, they sound very plausible, and I understand, that's the worldview. And like when I've heard him say things like, "Well, I was raised a Christian," or that he was Catholic, and this, that, and the other. But then some of the claims that are made, it's like, brother, come on, man. I wonder, based on, and I'm just kind of talking out loud right now, but based on what he said, and I'm gonna go at John Henry Clark as well too. I've heard him say things that made me wonder, what did they really get prior to, showing, like, what did they get prior to rejecting Christianity? Are they rejecting the Christian faith proper, or are they rejecting a caricature of the Christian faith? And so that's been interesting to kind of see on that. And I can't answer that question because I don't know them. Like I said, I haven't sat down and talked with any of them. But what I've seen so far, that's what it feels like to me. But yeah, I've been watching and been enjoying what you do, and enjoying coming on the channel with you, bro.
Thank you, definitely appreciate it. And this guy Nick is hilarious. CEO of Choosing Violence Inc.
Yeah.
I mean, if people keep critiquing, I'll keep refuting. And speaking of refuting, we're going to continue the tradition of refuting Jabari.
A long and proud tradition.
This is
oh man.
This is a video. Earlier I said that he's working on a debate with Nepal, and this is actually a video with Nepal, and they're speaking about the Exodus, I think. But then he mentioned something very interesting about Jesus that I want to hone in on. So,
all right.
With that being said, actually no, this is not that video. This is a different video. I am so sorry. This is a totally different video. We actually did comment on that video with Dr. Folk. This is a totally different video, but he said something very interesting here. So go ahead, see.
Okay.
Once again, drawing from the legacies, the ideas of this, you're going to see it all around you. If you have eyes to see and ears to hear, you will realize that it is all around you. Fascinating. And I want you to recognize that this symbol of creating themselves, the symbol of resurrection, the symbol of renewal, the symbol of being self-created, is the concept that comes from the kheper. And our early adherents to Christianity recognize this. Look at this. In early Christianity, I want you to recognize that St. Ambrose, the Archbishop of Milan, called Jesus the good Scarabaeus. St. Epiphanius called him, he said he was the Scarabaeus of God. And St. Augustine, perhaps St. Augustine is the most important theologian in early Christianity. St. Augustine, who is sometimes called the doctor of the church, who, by the way, says very negative things about the old ancient traditions. Not sure if you're aware of that. I'm not sure if you are aware of that, but listen to what he says. He says that Jesus is my own good beetle, not because he is only begotten, not because he himself, the author of himself, has taken on the form of mortals, but because he has rolled himself in our filth and chooses to be born from this filth itself. You should understand that this means that those early Christians were actually thinking of Jesus as the kheper. Did you know this? I know that when I was raised Roman Catholic, I would hear that Jesus was the self-begotten. And I had to think about what that meant. He created himself? They were trying to reference an earlier concept. Did you know that some early Christian crosses have been inscribed with the kheper? I've read it in several books. I'm still looking for images. I bet you when I finally get to Vatican City, I'm going to see it. Think about this. When we say that Yeshua is the self-created, I don't know if you know that those people who wrote that were thinking of the kheper.
You stop it there.
Yet, Christian.
Yeah, so this is your first time hearing this, correct? See?
Correct, yeah.
So I would love your thoughts on this claim that the church fathers basically saw Jesus as the kheper, as this dung beetle that represents resurrection. So, what do you think?
I'm not getting it from that. I could see how you can make the case based on this very small 1, 2, 3, 4.5 line excerpt from St. Augustine here, right? But it's giving for me that I don't know that they're trying to say that exact thing, But again, this is the first time I'm hearing it, so we'll have to look in. And since you're sharing slides, I'm sure it's going to be a little bit not a point for the other guys, if you ask me.
You know me so well. Also, just coming in is Mr. Southern Hospitality himself, MJ Jackson. What's going on, sir?
Grace and peace, brother. How y'all doing?
We're good. We're good. You're a little low in the volume.
Yeah, man. MJ's the type of dude that would have a a hot plate for you. A hot covered dish and some hot lead if you.
Yeah. Either way, it's gonna be hot.
Right.
Either way, it's gonna be hot.
How's my volume now, Alfredo?
I think you're okay. How you sound, C?
It's okay. It's a little low, but it's cool. It's cool.
All right.
Yeah. I'm half deaf, so you can ask me. Yeah.
So
right.
MJ, so were you watching before you came on, or?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to play catch up.
Not a problem. So, so here's a screenshot of that slide, right? And he's talking about the kheper, the scarab, right? That the early Christian fathers like Saint Ambrose and Epiphanes or Augustine are quoted in saying that Jesus is similar to the kheper, right? Now, two things before we even get into it, based on what he said, right? He mentions St. Augustine, but in the same breath, he says, well, St. Augustine has said some vile and horrible things about the Kemetic religion. Right. So if he's very much against that religion, he's not going to placate and big it up right now in a quote. So that kind of defeats what you was trying to say about St. Augustine. And he talks about early Christian crosses have been inscribed with the kheper. And to his credit, he said he hasn't seen any images of this. Neither have I, right? Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't any, but he has yet to find, right? But what about these quotes, right? So a lot of this comes from Alvin Boyd Kuhn, our good friend Albert Boyd Kuhn. Who is the King of Glory? A critical study of the Christos Messiah tradition. And this is what he says. Actually, MJ, could you read this for us?
Yeah, how's my volume now?
Yeah, you good.
Better.
Okay.
Yeah.
A touch of early Christian association of doctrine with Egyptian origins that did not suffer erasure by the Vandal hands is seen in an identification by Augustine and Ambrose amongst the Christian fathers of Jesus with as the good Scarabus, the Egyptian name for the divine avatar coming under the zodiac sign of Cancer, the crab or beetle, in accordance with the continuation for some time of the Kemet symbolism in Christianity, it was also maintained by some sectaries that Jesus was a potter and not a carpenter. The Egyptian god Ptah was the divine potter or shaper of the clay of man's nature into the divine form.
So a lot of people will get
Y'all
this
like my reading?
It's very, very, very engaging. Thank you, sir.
So you about to tune up here in a second, Dad. The Potter.
Look, I was channeling Dr. Porkchop.
I got you.
Man, you're terrible. You're terrible. So a lot of people would get this information from people like Mr. Kuhn here, right? The problem is, and this is from Tectonic's apologetic source that does what we do, but definitely better. I still have found no evidence of the good beetle quote in Augustine, and even less for such in Ambrose. As usual, no work of these writers is cited, nor is any reference given for this claim about Jesus as a potter from some sectaries, whoever they are. Okay. Now, this is from Jesus and His World, the archaeological evidence from Craig A. Evans. And he says, not surprisingly, the radical skepticism of Hopper and Price has gained no scholarly following. Hopper's strange theory, in which he resurrects the theosophic views and pseudo-Egyptology of Gerald Massey and who? Howard Boyd Kuhn, among others, have been thoroughly refuted and is not followed by any reputable historian or Egyptologist. In The Unmasking of the Pagan Christ, Stanley E. Porter and Stephen J. Bedard, Kuhn's work has been dismissed by mainstream academia for their lack of sources and documentation, misrepresentation of linguistics, misplacement of quotations, and so forth. Okay, this dude's just trash.
Good grief.
And the academic consensus seems to be that Mr. Kuhn's work is trash.
Now, who's relying on Kuhn's work?
Well, Jabari made mention that supposedly some of the church fathers like Ambrose and Augustine mentioned that Jesus was the good Scarabaeus, the good scarab. And this claim of these quotes come from people like Albert Boyd Kuhn who don't cite sources.
Right.
So and these Negroes want to debate real PhDs.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
It is what it is.
I'm gonna say like Malcolm X, so-called Negroes.
So that's right, man. Ambrose and Augustine. But what about Saint Epiphanius, right? So this is from Benjamin David Steele. This dude is not a believer. He's not a believer. He's a Gnostic, actually. He says, I found some quotes of the church fathers in Isaac Meyer's book, Scarabs, on page 63. After the Christian era, the influence of cult of the scarab was still felt. St. Ambrose, Archbishop of Milan, calls Jesus the good Scarabaeus, who wrote up before him the hereto unshapen mud of our bodies. St. Epiphanius has been quoted as saying of Christ, he is the Scarabaeus of God. And indeed, it appears likely that what may be called Christian forms of scarab yet exists. One has been described as representing the crucifixion of Jesus. It is white, and the engraving is in green, and back are two palm branches. Many others have been found apparently engraved with the Latin cross. Mayers gives this citation. Works, Pris 1686, volume 1, column 1528, number 11, 113, Egyptian Mythology and Egyptian Christianity, etc., by Samuel Sharp, London, 1863, page 3. In Samuel Sharp's book, I could only find the quotes on page 111 near the end of the chapter titled The Religion of Lower Egypt, but there is no citation.
That's one thing I'll say this before we get too far off, man.
Yes.
You mentioned Gerald Massey earlier, right? And that's one thing that people tend to forget, man, is how bad that time frame was for Egyptology and Egyptomania and all that kind of stuff. You talked about it. If you talked about it once, you talked about it at least 50 times on this channel, bro. And like one of the things that people tend to forget is how bad it is. Like, and go check this out. This the 6th edition, right? Look it up in your Google search bar or whatever. 6th edition of the 16 Crucified Saviors by Joe Massey, right? There is a disclaimer on there and this is the name of the group, Internet Infidels Incorporated. Okay, they're unbelievers. They're highly atheistic groups of people. They don't like Christianity. They say don't trust anything that's in this book, right? Like, and this is the guy that they go into, man. Y'all, vet your sources and your sources. Don't come here with this nonsense talking about you trying to debunk somebody. It's ridiculous. It makes you not look very smart. Okay, just saying.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador.
You're welcome.
We have another apologist in the building coming from Detroit, and his name is Apologist in Detroit. What's going on, sir?
What's going on, man? I heard that I could come here, say what I want, cite no sources, and it would be fair game.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Wow, what an opportunity. How can I pass that up?
You want to wild out, bro. You're welcome.
No, sir. That's not what we do here. So,
hey, I heard he had bacon for breakfast. I don't know.
He's stupid. I don't know how much you've heard Apologist Detroit. I don't know if you want to say anything real quick before we get into it.
No, we can just keep it moving. I know what's going on.
Okay. So now this gentleman, right? He actually believes that the church fathers said these things, but he goes through this. If you look at his article, he goes through all these different books looking for the primary source for the quotes. He can't find it. There is no source. It just isn't, right? Now, let me, Mr. or Mrs. Scarab Chronicles, the good Scarab, the good shepherd. He's been called many things. Here's the crazy thing, right? What if the church fathers did say that Jesus was the good Scarabaeus? So what? It's not a ripoff of Kemetic belief, because we know that many believers, when they're trying to articulate the gospel, they will contextualize it for their particular audience. So it would make sense that if they were talking to people who are maybe formerly from the Kemetic faith, using things that they already know, right? So they're not advocating for the scarab, right? And we have actually a perfect example of Paul doing this in the book of Acts when he's talking to the Stoic philosophers, right? Mm-hmm. He says, as some of your own poets once said, we are God's offspring. That particular poem is talking about the god Saturn. But we all know that Paul is not advocating for the god Saturn. He's just using something that he knows his audience knows as a launch pad to go into the gospel, right? But Scarab, you see, you was good for a minute, but now it's like it's not a syncretism if I'm using it as a metaphor. You can't just make this quantum leap into its syncretism, because
if that's the case, the entire ancient world was syncretizing.
Right.
Now, many of them actually were.
So there is no quotes, but if there were, okay. It doesn't hurt Christianity. It's just them trying to explain Jesus in terms that their audience would understand. Right? So there's that. But let's talk a little bit about these scarabs, right? So we can have a better understanding if there is any real connection, right? Any syncretism, as Scarab Chronicle says. So it says here, this is from Scarab Amulets in the Egyptian collection of the Princeton University Art Museum from Kate Lasica. CMB, if you could be so kind to read this for us.
Sure. Scarabs are perhaps the most important and ubiquitous subset of Egyptian-style amulets. Their substance and significance are due to the religious importance of the scarab beetle, Scarabaeus sacer as a symbol of rebirth, creation, and the sun god. Scarab beetles lay their eggs in balls of dung. As the larvae grow, they eat their way out of the interior. When the Egyptians noticed the hatching of these scarabs from a ball of dung, an extraordinarily insignificant object, it seemed that they hatched out of nothingness to be created. The Egyptian word for the scarab is kheper, which is also the verb to come into existence or to be born. Ah, I got you.
Right.
I see where you're going with that.
MJ, can you continue, please?
The idea of creation from nothingness fits well with the ancient Egyptian understanding of the world as a cycle of life, death, and rebirth. The Egyptians thought that just as some plants were reborn annually, the sun was born every morning in the east, aged, and died every night in the west. It then traveled through the underworld each evening to be reborn again in the morning. Similarly, they believed that people would be reborn in the afterlife. What better symbol than a dung beetle to reflect these processes? Egyptians also connected the scarab with a version of the sun god named Kheper, the one who comes into existence, who was born every morning. In nature, they observed that the scarab beetle would push a ball of dung several times larger than itself with its legs. Similarly, they believe that the Kheper, the scarab solar deity, will push the sun disk across the sky each day.
Thank you. So, does this really sound like Jesus to you?
Not pushing dung.
Being born
No.
every morning, being born,
Nah.
being created
At
from
all.
nothing.
At all. Right. That's what I was saying. I was picking up what you're going with this. The God that we serve, the Christ that the scriptures talk about, there's a lot of fake ones, but the one the scriptures talk about did not come into existence. Yes, he was born of a virgin, but that was in his flesh, and so the God that we serve, according to John chapter 1, was with God and is God and created all things that were created. He didn't create himself. We've heard of other Egyptian deities that could do that in ways that we won't mention because it's a family show tonight.
That's right.
This ain't that. Put it that way. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah.
So, speaking of scripture, CMB, I'm glad you mentioned that. Chris, could you read John 1:1 for us?
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Right. There is no beginning with God. God was here before there was a beginning. So this completely contradicts the Kemetic understanding of creation of the deity, because our deity was not created from dung or any other elements. That's not the God of the Bible. Colossians 1:16, Chris, if you could read this, please.
For everything was created by him, in heaven and on earth, the visible and the invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through him and for him.
And this is speaking of Christ, that he created everything. Therefore, he himself cannot be created if he's the one creating everything, seen and unseen. This is not the Scarabaeus at all. At all. Now, he also says in the clip that we played earlier that when I was raised Roman Catholic, I would hear that Jesus was the self-begotten. And I had to think about what that meant. He created himself. They were trying to reference an earlier concept. I was also born and raised Catholic. I did my communion, confirmation. I never remember them saying that Jesus was self-begotten. I don't know if any of you guys grew up Catholic. Have you guys? None of you guys, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't recall that, right? So now the Bible does talk about only begotten, right? But what does the Bible actually mean when it says only begotten? Well, I'm glad you asked. Jesus as the unique Son of God. Jesus is the, quote, only begotten Son of God. But only begotten is a confusing translation. The Greek word is, I don't read Greek, can't say that. Not only does the translation only begotten, the monogenes, seems to contradict the obvious statements in the Old Testament about other sons of God. It sounds as though there was a time when the Son of God did not exist, that he had a beginning. The Council of Nicaea in 425 taught that the Son has always existed, but the idea of the uncreated eternal Son had been understood since the beginning of the church. It was believed to be the teaching of the New Testament. The Greek word monogenes doesn't actually mean only begotten. It presents a problem neither with respect to Jesus having a beginning, nor with respect to divine, quote, sons of God who were in the Old Testament. The confusion, Elohim, called gods, extends from a misunderstanding of the root of the Greek word. For many years, monogenes was thought to have derived from the two Greek terms monos and geneo, to beget, bear. Scholars of Greek eventually discovered through the second part of the word monogenes does not come from the Greek word geneo, but rather the noun genos, class, kind. The term literally means one of a kind or unique, with no connotation to time, origin, or solitary existence. The validity of this understanding is shown by the New Testament itself. In Hebrews 11:17, Isaac is called Abraham's monogenes, but Isaac was not the only son Abraham fathered, since he fathered Ishmael prior to Isaac. The term must mean that Isaac was Abraham's unique son, the son of the covenant promises and the line through which the Messiah would come. Just Elohim and no other, as Yahweh is an Elohim, are Yahweh. So Jesus is the unique son and no sons of God. And this is from Divine Council.pdf from, of course, the great late Michael Heiser.
Yeah.
So he's not self-created. He is eternal. He is always here. And the scriptures say that when you understand the Greek. So, again, our good friend Jabari Osase has misspoken about his understanding of the New Testament. Right? He's not self-created. Therefore, there is no correlation between Jesus and other self-created deities in Kemet.
Exactly.
So,
if you could, if I can just real quick, can I have you go back to one of the previous slides there real quick?
sure.
Yes. So this one right here. Yeah. All right. So yeah. So this is part of the thing that people thought that monogenes was to derive from two Greek terms, monos and geneo, right? So kind of think of it for the layman right here, which is all of us. So if you're familiar with the term butterfly, right? The term butterfly in English, papillon, French, I don't know what it is in Spanish, whatever. It's an insect, right? So it's a flying insect at that, but it has nothing to do with dairy products, okay? That you might put on some bread. You know what I mean? It's not anything to do with that. So when you see that, and when people are trying to translate from, again, like from the Koine Greek to English or to whatever, or to Latin in that case, whatever, that's what it was. So they're having some issues with that. And in terms of the King James version, only begotten is there. That's what we see. Most of us grew up learning how to quote John 3:16 and stuff like that in there. And then so a lot of people who have issues with the Trinity, issues with the deity of Christ, issues with the God nature, if you will, the Godness, right, of Christ, they have this problem with this because they're getting hung up on the English word and what they think begotten means, especially since you have these long lists in the previous, the Old Testament and the beginning of some of the books in the Gospels. I think it's Matthew and Luke. Talk about such and such begat so and so, begat so and so. So they're associating these terms, and it shouldn't be that way. Right? So that's kind of where that's at. So just kind of and again, it's very understandable. I'm not mad or thinking that Jabari is trying to deceive people specifically on that. Again, this is what he said he understood. Okay, let's just say that's what he understood. What's wrong? It's okay. It's okay. We all have to grow and learn and mature. It's all good.
But though that is true, he needs to be more careful when he makes these critiques about Christianity, because he is on record stating that he is well versed with the worldview of Christianity and its theology. But time and time again, we have seen that that's not the case.
Right. And if you're
not.
going to be a professor of some sort, a teacher of some sort, you really have to be, like you said, a little more careful with that sort of thing. You know, if you're going to cite sources, they better be good sources. You know,
Right.
if you're going to cite, what you understood, contrast that to what you understood then to what you know to be true now. Right. And it doesn't
Right.
look like there's been any follow up research on that from this point anyway. You know, so.
Right. I want to address Social Dilemma podcast. All that slandering stuff this coward does. Man up and accept the debate full. Right? So, one, it's not nice to call people names. Also, where have I slandered Jabari or Sonetta in this video? I don't know if you was here for the very beginning of the video, but I did make mention that Sa does not want to host a debate. And he has every right not to, and we will not publicly speculate on why. Jabari is already working on a debate with Nepal, and he's focused on getting his class trip to Egypt going in July. He doesn't have the time. So, both Jabari and Dr. Falk would love to debate. It's just the time restraints just won't allow it right now. And as for me, Jabari is more than happy to respond to any of the videos I have done on him for the last 4 years. So he's more than welcome to do so. So I don't know where the coward thing is coming from, but that's what's happening. And we're going to just keep on trucking. So, yeah. Well, actually, Scarab, no, it's really more Dr. Falk. They're gonna have a debate. Yeah, it's not me, because according to Jabari, I'm lurking in the shadows. So you can't debate a shadow, right? I'm an apparition of the algorithm. You know what I mean? It's like the ghost of YouTube. That's that's who I am, I guess.
Really creepy.
You know what I mean? So, but yeah, guys, that's it. Once again, Jabari needs to stop, going in his zeitgeist bag, because he gets called out on it every single time. This is not scholarly stuff that he's quoting. He's quoting from things that we've seen from the zeitgeist documentary. That's his bag when it comes to going at Christianity. And it's like, this has been refuted I don't know how many times. And DMG says MJ should debate Jabari. That would be interesting.
Let me put it to you like this: if something like that were to happen, it wouldn't be, number one, it wouldn't be on Sinetta's channel. It would most likely be for free. And I'm just not interested in performances. Once again, you can create a video, we'll respond, but I'm not interested in black people getting off on people performing. We've seen this song and dance. There's a lot of shucking and jiving and bloviating and all that crap. That's not scholarship. That is performative.
I'm gonna interpret that from y'all. Come Saturday night, somebody get knocked.
He said, really?
Somebody get knocked out.
BMG says, do it on Paradigm Shift, because I don't have that kind of money, fam. Yeah, I mean, that would be, honestly, that would be the appropriate platform, because he still has a great rapport with people from the community. He's respected on both sides. So absolutely, if it was to happen, MJ, that would be the place to do it. But yeah, I mean, it's sad that he continues to use such weak, dare I say, even call it scholarship when it comes to his critiques against Christianity. And as long as he continues to do it, there's a good chance that BK might have something to say about it. And that's it. Because again, when you attack or critique someone's worldview, there's going to be pushback, and I'm the pushback. You know, and he is more than free to respond to any of the multiple pushbacks I have given in the last 4 years. So that's it. That's about it. So, gentlemen, what are your final thoughts before we are out of here?
I'm just happy to hang out with the homies. You know, it's been a minute, and I was like, oh goodness gracious, I got all this energy, and they laugh. I'm jumping in, and I don't care what the topic is. So I'm happy that I made it.
Look, you got time to do a freestyle session?
Who we talking about?
We're just talking. We're gonna freestyle it, whatever the Lord hit us with.
I know who you want to talk about.
Defeats the enemy. What's good, bro?
What's going on?
What up? What up? What up? This was too good, man, to just let sit behind. You know, with all the stuff that's been going on. Our good Dr. Falk, you know, laying down the gauntlet, and then all of a sudden, you know, strapping on boots. No, I'm just kidding. I know BK wants to keep it cordial, but no, fam, you know, just, you know, listening to all this stuff in the background and seeing all this stuff. It's just funny how all these ancient African religion stuff always goes back to our good friend Dwight, last name Man. And once again, it has been proven. But yeah, so
yeah, you know, that's funny enough. I wasn't even making that point, but you're right, though. Once again,
side he popped up out of nowhere.
Once again, straight from the Caucasus Mountains. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The Tom Who
has reared his head once again. And Nick, you're a funny guy, bro. When I want you on the channel, man, let me know when you're free, man. Yeah, I'm not blocked. Yeah, please, definitely.
Yeah, man,
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, one of the things too, guys, you know, that I think that we need to, you know, you alluded to it earlier, BK. You know, Jabari does have this responsibility, right? Because he does claim, right? He in his response to you and Dr. Falk, he was saying, you know, I do myself have a master's in divinity. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then you actually should have better scholarship than all of us on this channel besides MJ. MJ has right. he's the most decorated and on his way to a PhD himself.
Facts.
But that's the yeah, look at that. Yeah, but
those books back there ain't for show, baby.
For real, yep. And I have cases of books that I inherited from MJ. So, but no, Jabari does have a greater responsibility since he is educated and he is, you know, proclaiming that he has all of this wisdom and backing behind him, but yet, with just the amount of scholarship that you are able to do, BK, and others, you know, you don't have you're doing PhD level scholarship on this channel, and he is constantly making these mistakes that you are having to come clean up and correct, and he's doing literal damage, spiritual damage to people who are taking it hook, line, and sinker. And he is presenting information that is pseudo, that is not backed up by any kind of credible scholarship and all of these things. And it's crazy that this is the era that we're in with all the technology and all the things that we have at our fingertips. So yeah, so shout out to you, BK, and keeping your foot on the gas, man. It's a blessing, bro.
Thank you.
Can I just say something real quick?
Of course.
Jabari is no slouch. He's a sharp brother. He went to Ivy League college. Let's not forget that. And he also does some good work. I've seen his LinkedIn profile, right? So he does some good work in the community. But you can't build a community. In the words of Adam Coleman, You can't build a community on a foundation of false ideas. You just can't do that. And so, I mean, if you're concerned about Black liberation, I mean, we got to find some better foundations to build it on. And with that, I'll continue to pray for this brother.
Right. I mean, outside of his critiques on Christianity, I've seen him talk about other subjects. Very articulate, well read, like you said, sharp dude. You know, very sharp guy. So yes, here's another disgruntled employee of the community. It's too smart for y'all to hear part of his debate. I don't understand what that means.
That is in code.
I don't. Sense. Yeah, so I guess you're also part of the not too smart crew, I guess. So if you could rephrase that, I'll put it back up. You know. Oh, you said you say his name, they determine the debate would not be on Sonetta. No, we were talking about MJ actually, not Dr. Falk.
So let me also just point this out. I'm a free Black man. I'm trying not to cuss. I'm a free Black man. Benny Brand. So you take a seat, Doc.
So yeah, so you might have just got in the video. Yeah. We also MJ. We wasn't talking about Dr. Falk and Jabbar. So
I guess they don't have wisdom in Egypt, but that's another conversation.
Yes, not looking good. It's not looking good. Yes, Apologist of Detroit, man. What are your thoughts before we're out of here?
This is sort of a classic situation where people who have, for their own reasons, a disagreement or take exception with Christianity, like overstep their bounds. To me, it just seems like he posits himself as a scholar, and where he makes statements that the average scholar would make. Scholars would not speak that blatantly outside of their discipline the way that he does, which is sad, because as you just pointed out, it does more harm. It sounds great in the echo chamber when you got your cheerleaders on the sideline, cheering you on, assuming that you as the expert know what you're talking about. But when you come up against others who are well informed in the field, it gets exposed for what it actually is, just fodder, just a bunch of, off the cuff commentary that really doesn't have the substance that if you're truly trying to maintain the credibility of your name, you wouldn't be that, you wouldn't say it the way that you're saying it. You wouldn't put it out there as though it's almost factual. Right. You might just speculate it or say, this is what I think. Here's the reason why. But anyway, that's kind of, where I come with a lot of this, conscious community stuff. It's just like, come on, man. It's almost, some of it is almost, it's so laughable. It's hard to even respond to it, but that there's people listening.
So Benny Brand here says, it means that I heard that debate and you're missing a lot that he said. That's really amazing since this debate hasn't happened yet that we're discussing. So the fact that you've already seen it, I mean, hey,
please
that's
share.
Amazing. Can you share the video of the future debate?
Benny's living in the future.
Hey, listen, Benny probably got the melanated superpowers that none of the rest of us got, which is time travel. So yes. that's what's happening. Still waiting on mine to manifest that. So if you got tips, let me know.
It's in the mail. It's in the mail.
Yeah, we're not talking about the debate with Richard Carey. You see, I think you need to watch the beginning of this so you can understand the context. No one has spoken about Richard Carey at all. That's not what this video is about.
Is that debate out? Is it behind a paywall? Because I'm not
sure.
Anything.
I'm not sure.
You won't make no money off of me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, go look in YouTube. Someone might put it up. I don't know.
And let's not forget Richard Carrier, his track record in debates.
He's taken an L from the urban apologist as well.
Yeah, we've been there, done that.
We gave him the nice wash and rinse cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, he was hit so hard his power went out.
So CMB, last words before we out of here.
What up? Yeah, Drugs are bad, okay? Now,
Jesus
let me
guy,
see.
man. Terrible. Terrible.
No. All jokes aside, man. Listen,
This is your brain.
You said it tonight.
This is your brain on drugs.
Yeah, we said it before, man. But yeah, you have to vet your sources and your sources. Go back as far as it takes. Do the legwork, and you'll probably come out with something close to the truth. You know, that's kind of where we're at here, and literally that's why all of us are Christians. I would say, you know, at this point in time, I mean, you know, this Christian journey is not an easy thing. You know, we are Black men, you know, and Native men on the planet. You know what I'm saying? On the panel tonight. Excuse me. And we've all been through everything everyone else has been through. You know, we wouldn't necessarily call ourselves social justice warriors, but we get affected like everything else does, like everyone else does. You know what I mean? And so many of us have had questions over the course of, you know, especially the last several years, going like right before pandemic, you know, with Trayvon and John Crawford III and, you know, Tamir Rice, and you know, these are things that are near and dear to all of our hearts, and it's kind of watching through, like, you know, kind of dealing with Black Lives Matter and whatever else like that, and all the rest, everything you could see that would point people to things like the conscious community and you know, certain branches of Hebrew Islam, whatever the case is, that would answer the questions that we have or scratch the itch, right? The thing of it is, though, we have had to wrestle with these questions and seek the truth, right? And the truth always comes back down to the fact that Jesus Christ of Nazareth is our Savior, right? It comes back down to the fact that the tomb is empty, that He reigns and rules today, right? And we have to look at all of the stuff and ask the questions. And sometimes, I'll be perfectly honest, we don't have all the answers, but what the other folks are presenting, it does not hold water. It just doesn't. We're not advocating for a God of the gaps argument either, right? We're saying, look at what the scripture has said, look at how life is playing out, and you'll find, I'm sure, like we found, that there is no other worldview on the planet that speaks to the human condition as is, doesn't pull no corners, doesn't pull no punches, and offers a real solution with real results.
Amen.
That's biblical Christianity. And we talk about no blab it and grab it type of high five your neighbor and tell him I'm coming out. We're not talking about all that, right? We're talking about biblical Christianity as is. We're not talking about, like, you know, the Trumpers and all this other nonsense that's going on here. We're talking about what the scripture is actually teaching. And I find peace. I find joy. I find truth, you know, as have all of the rest of us have. So come on over. Got plenty of room for you.
Yeah. I think Jabari will be an amazing Christian. He would be an amazing Christian. He really would.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of ways, I know, like you said, MJ, he already does a lot of good in the community. He wants to serve and help other people. You know what I mean? So just need to get that gospel in him, and you'll be good.
Yeah, I believe he loved Black people.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with loving Black people. I love Black people too. So I just think that one of us has a proper foundation from which to work for the liberation and the justice on behalf of our people. The other one is borrowing capital from me.
Amen. And with that being said, where am I? Here we go. So, with that being said, Apologist of Detroit defeats the enemy. MJ Jackson, BK, signing off. Peace.